one thing the cool kids are doing is listening to a discussion about a children's show from two 30-year-old men.
I think that's the only cool thing to do. But hello, everyone. Welcome to the coolest podcast around Tapcaf Transmissions. I am Corey, joined as always by Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing this week, Justin?
I'm doing quite well. I was away for not quite a week, but I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back talking The Bad Batch. Yeah, how about you?
I'm doing good. How long have we been away? Was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks since we've done our last episode? Is it the first episode of February?
I thought we did one before I left, but maybe not.
I'm gonna look that up while we're.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a fun trip. I did some Star Wars stuff. We were in Orlando, so we did go to Disney World. I had never been to. Well, as a kid, I went to Universal. Or not Universal, MGM.
Okay.
Yeah, MGM, which is actually a part of Disney World now, at least. It's called Disney World Hollywood Studios. But that's the one that has, what's it called? The Star Wars simulator, Star Tours, which is really cool.
There's so many unique ships in that you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, right. And the cool thing about Star Tours is, I don't know how, so you do it in, I think, 3 sections. And each section has like 10 different options. So like when I got, or maybe there's 2 sections. I got Exegol. That was like the last part. And then was it Crate or no, it was Jakku, flying the Superstar Destroyer on Jakku. So I got those 2. In August, my son, he loved it. And the cool thing was, we bought the Fast Pass, which you honestly have to if you go to Disney. And because we had Imogen with us, they gave us basically a thing where it was like, I forget what they called it. It was like a helper pass. So what we did is I went on it with August, then my wife got to go on it with August. So he got to ride twice in a row, which he really enjoyed. So that was cool. I forget what he got the second time. I think he got Crate, and I don't know what the other one was. But then on the second day of Disney, we went to so that Disney also has Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of different. I'd only ever been to the Anaheim one, the California one, which is Disneyland, where they're all in kind of one park. But in Disney World in Orlando, there's 4 different parks. So we went to Galaxy's Edge. He got a big kick out of that. He met Chewbacca. I got a picture of him just like he was really nervous around Rey. Like Rey tried to hold his hand and like take him, like, you know, they're really great with kids there. He was too nervous, but then he saw Chewbacca and he gave him like the biggest hug ever. And the stormtroopers he thought they were really cool. But we tried to do Rise of the Resistance, which I'd never been to before. I'd been to Galaxy's Edge 3 times. I was there right when it opened one other time, and now this time. This was the first time Rise of the Resistance was open. But like, to go to the ride, you have to buy a special Fast Pass. And when I tried to do that, it was like, yeah, our first available showing is at 9:00 in the evening, and it was like 9 a.m. So it's crazy popular.
Yeah,
I've heard it's really cool. We did do the I forget what it's called, Flight of the Falcon, or whatever the Millennium Falcon ride is called.
Smugglers Run.
Smugglers Run. And it was cool. I will say though, so you go in groups of 6. And it was me and August, my son. Kelsey can't ride it because she's pregnant. And then we had 4 randos.
Are you supposed to say that yet?
Yeah, it's fine. And then we had 4 randos, and August and I were kind of it's not really once you get into the section, it's not really an actual line, but it was me and him. And then the 4 randos, and when the gate opened, they just like pushed right by us, knowing that the first 4 people in get the best rides in the Falcon, I'm assuming. So August, on his first time in, gets to the worst job, especially for a kid. He's just pressing buttons, which he couldn't actually reach.
What general ages were the 4 people that pushed past 2 kids?
Well, it was only me and him, so it was only one kid. But
still.
Yeah, there was like an 18-year-old, and then the rest were like older adults. So they pushed right by us. Yeah, so August, like there's 2 gunnery stations, 2 engineering stations, and 2 control stations. The control stations are obviously the coolest, but the guns are still pretty cool too because you actually like impact the ride.
Yeah.
The engineering one, not so much. Plus, he literally couldn't reach it because it's on the wall. So I was just like, I was shocked, and they had just they made a comment about just riding it too, and I was like, you're not gonna let this fucking kid like have a chance? Like if it were me, where I'd rode it before, I would have let him sit in the top seat and sat in the very back myself because, I don't get Disney adults, and that really left a sour taste in my mouth.
Mm. Yeah, that's shitty. And of course, you stayed at the Star Wars hotel the whole time, right?
I did not stay at the Star Wars hotel the whole time. I stayed in the middle of International Drive in Orlando, right across from a theme park where a kid got killed last year. Well, not really a theme park. It's like a giant, like a slingshot.
I only ever went to Disney. I went to Disney in Orlando when I was a kid, like 1997 or 1998. So I was only 5 or 6. So there wasn't any Star Wars stuff that I knew of at that point yet. But I didn't like much yet. I was 5 or 6, and there was a hurricane that went through while we were there. So one of the only things I remember from that trip is like sitting in the corner of our hotel room with my family, and we had like a garbage pail that was too close to the patio door. So they sent me over to get it for some reason. I don't know what the logic was of like, I was the smallest. So I don't know if they thought I would like cause the least damage if I got blown around the room.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was my highlight, other than being terrified I'd be killed by Cruella de Vil, because we went on Halloween and I was dressed as a Dalmatian. But
yeah, you don't want to get skinned for sure.
Yeah, so that I don't have any cool Star Wars stories, but maybe someday.
The MGM, well, it's called now it's called Hollywood Studios, has like a giant AT-AT that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Like right outside Star Tours. It used to shoot water at you, I believe, and now I don't think it does anything. But yeah.
Well, this week's topic is going to be the Bad Batch. So we're going to be talking primarily about the crossing and retrieval arc on whatever that planet is. But since we haven't really talked about the mid-season stuff either, which was all the clone conspiracy stuff, I think we'll probably touch on that a fair bit. But now that we are 10 episodes out of 18, and I did get some flack for not being precise with my...
I saw that.
With my language about where exactly we are in the season before. What are your thoughts on the Bad Batch in the second third, let's say?
Yeah. So first, did you find out how many episodes we missed, by the way, or how many weeks away we were?
It's only been 2 weeks, and we talked about Jedi Prince that week, and then week before was the Bad Batch. So we talked about Faster, and I think we also talked about Entombed in that one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't think we've talked about the Kashyyyk episode, the mid-season stuff, or these last 2.
Right. Yeah, so we got quite a bit to talk about. Yeah, I've really been enjoying the show. Probably, well, I'm saying I think I'm going to enjoy it more than season 1, but I'm kind of assuming that the season ends off strongly. Like I've heard episode 12 is the big one that I keep hearing thrown around. And have you watched all the way to the end yet? Like, do you have any general impressions you can give without any spoilers? Like, right. For me, I feel like I'm going to like the season more than the last one, and I'm really enjoying it right now. I am like this most recent episode, I didn't really get much out of, I will say. Like, I remember I was like going to get breakfast, like out in the kitchen, and I was like, should I pause this? And I was like, that's probably fine.
Yeah, so I have watched up through episode 14, and I was basically stopping every episode to write clips about each one. So for anyone who's worried about watching my videos, anything that I've released on the Bad Batch, commenting on the episodes, has been written as of seeing just whatever the latest episode was. So you don't need to worry about that. But the rest of the season, I think, is really good. There are some episodes that I think are better than the Crosshair one and the mid-season ones,
Oh, that's
which I
good.
think have been generally regarded as the best three. Like I'm not sure how people have felt about the Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences compared to Solitary Clone. I don't know if they've like nudged them out of the top spot, but uh, yeah, I do think the season continually picks up from here. And again, haven't seen the final two episodes. None of us have been able to watch episode 15 and 16, but there are a lot of good ones coming.
Good, good. Is there one that really stands out to you without spoilers? Is episode 12 the big one that I keep hearing? Is that one that's a standout?
So if that's the one I'm thinking of, I'm gonna bring up the. So I don't remember the episode list as much, but yeah. So episode 12, I think, is like the Crosshair stuff that everyone was excited about beforehand. But yeah. So
what about you? Are you?
Yeah, episode 12 is really good. Episode 11, 12, 13, and 14, I think, are all pretty good. But
Okay,
12 is the best one, I think.
Because we just had 10, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think you're going to rate it higher than season 1?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just seeing like just up to 14, I think the next 4 episodes are definitely some of the best we've seen from the show. But
so for those who don't know what we're talking like up to 14, we got screeners of the show, but only the first 14 episodes, which is actually kind of interesting. Like the fact that they didn't include the whole thing is interesting to me. It kind of indicates that the last 2 episodes.
Last season? They not have the
I
finale?
don't think we got screeners for anything last season.
We might have actually gotten the first 2 episodes or something.
Yeah, I don't think we got
something, but
yeah, we didn't get very much. Even with Andor, I think didn't like. We'd get them week by week. Didn't they give us like the last 3 episodes at once or something?
I think we got the arcs in packages, didn't we? Because we got episode 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. I remember. And then I think we got the finale alone. But
I gotta say, I saw the other day that the Mandalorian timestamp for episode 1 was going around, and I got really excited. I thought for sure I was going to open up Disney Debut and they would be on there, but no.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that all day. Like, should I check now? Should I check now? Should I check now?
Yeah,
I don't think we're getting anything.
They don't need to. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like with the Mandalorian, it's like it's one of the biggest shows. Like, they got us by the nuts. Like they don't care.
But what did you think about? I guess the big thing to talk about with Truth and Consequences has been Echo taking a step back to spend more time with his family after all of his controversies came forward. So, what did you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, classic. He'll get like a Netflix special called "Canceled in 5 Years," and no, it was okay. I liked what came after. Sorry, my phone was apparently on loud. I liked what came afterward, like in the next episode where Omega's obviously upset about it.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that later. We get our, but yeah, I feel like it wasn't quite earned because they didn't give the character enough time. It wasn't awful or anything. But I would have liked, kind of a bit more focus on Echo. Like he was kind of like if it had been Wrecker leaving, I think that would have been more impactful because he's a character who's gotten a lot more screen time. But I still liked it though.
Yeah, I would have liked more Echo leading up to it, but we did get enough sprinkled throughout the season, at least between the first episode and the Kashyyyk episode, about how he was kind of not thrilled about how little they were doing. Or
I did like
he
that
felt
too.
like he could have been doing more elsewhere. So yeah, I do wish we got a bit more in the meantime with that, but we did see it was a little bit of addition by subtraction with him, where right afterwards we kind of see by implication what his role was in the group and how it impacted everyone. Like the conversation with Tech and Omega was really good, and I think
neurodivergent king.
But the I don't think you could have the dynamic work very well if, like, I get where you're coming from with the character development standpoint of like Wrecker we know enough about, he can kind of fuck off and have that impact. where you get to see Tech and Wrecker fight now, which is the best part of the show, really. So
I thought Tech has really been a good character. Like I've really liked he's taken a bit more time recently, which I've enjoyed. Yeah. I think he's been a fun character recently.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot more of Tech this season overall. Like this has definitely been Tech's season.
Yeah,
probably a bit at the expense of Hunter, who really we haven't seen all that much of. He hasn't done too much.
Yeah, that's true. Now that I think about it, he's kind of just. But I mean, like that's kind of the struggle, and I that's why I think Echo splitting up kind of makes sense, because we could even get Echo episodes at some point. Like we could have Echo, and I don't know if he's still going to be with Rex or wherever, but
yeah, like that was my thinking coming out of that as well. Where like. Crosshair, I don't think anyone feels is underdeveloped because, like when we do get him, we basically get, even if it's only been like one or two over the course of the whole show, we have had like that solid 24, 25 minutes of Crosshair. And that's something that like Echo hadn't really had split over the entire show. Like he's lucky to get a line in an episode in the background. And yeah, so like my hope was that maybe we'd get an Echo focused episode thing, like show what the group is like without him, and then if you get an Echo episode at some point in the season, then that is more than enough to make up for him not being in the day-to-day of their lives.
Yep. Well said. Any other thoughts on that episode before we continue?
On the clone conspiracy related stuff?
I think, didn't we cover most of that? Or I guess we didn't. But yeah, that episode. What else? Kind of any other thoughts about that? I thought that was a good episode overall.
Yeah. Like I thought those were both really good. I have been starting to
worry. Did we talk about the first one?
We haven't talked about like on the podcast. We haven't done anything with. I don't think we talked about the Wookiee one, or those two. So
okay.
There's any? I don't know how deep we need to go into them, unless there's like specific stuff you want to talk about. Because I think like the one thing to really focus on is whether or not Rio Chuchi is now dead.
I don't think so.
I don't mean like immediately after that, but like in like episode 4 time period, is she just gone? Does she not get on board with the rebellion? Is this just her one cause?
Yeah, she kind of felt like she wasn't getting the hint a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
well, in the same way that Bail wasn't and Mon Mothma wasn't early on either.
Yeah, but like, yeah, that's true. I feel like Bail got the hint kind of early. Like, I don't know, but I loved Palpatine in this episode. He was so great. It was, I think, one of my favorite uses of Palpatine in a while. Where like I laughed out loud because it was one of those things where the whole time you're like, okay, they're actually going to get a decent win against the newly formed Empire here. Because for those who missed the episode or don't remember, the big thing is basically they want to expose Admiral Rampart for destroying Kamino, and kind of the subterfuge that's been going on in funding the new army. And then Palpatine comes on and he's like, he uses the information that they leaked and he's like, this is evidence that the clones are fucked.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was hilarious. It was so good. It was like so Palpatine. He's just like he uses the what would have been a bad situation to his advantage. So smart. I love that.
I love that as well, because it's like we're seeing Palpatine do what got him into power. Like we're still seeing the Empire be really powerful, but we're like seeing that it's in that transition period where Palpatine does need to make this appearance in the Senate to turn it to his advantage. Like it's not just everyone going along with what he wants regardless, which you kind of get to later on, but we get to see him in his element.
Yeah, he's still at the point where like it's not like in episode 4 or 5 where like he's like untouchable. Like he could still be toppled if the Senate really got their shit together. It's just he's so powerful that, you know, and so charismatic and influential. And I just really enjoyed the scene where he like came up. Like it was a very good oh shit moment. And yeah, it was. I was actually expecting them to get Sam Witwer for it, but no, I think it was Ian. Yeah.
I like how they use the senators they did to argue against the clones as well. Like it's the former separatist group representatives that are going for more of the, like, probably thinking that if they get this new Defense Recruitment Act, it'd be people coming from all over the galaxy. So like in principle, you think like, oh, this is probably better for some of the planets if it's not just like clones that were made entirely for doing Palpatine's bidding, but in reality, you just end up with the.
I gotta say, I was a little surprised. The is that the first time we've seen like the separatists back in the Senate?
No, it's kind of weird in canon, especially because like the actual groups didn't. They were always there. Like it wasn't the Trade Federation that was fighting in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, because I guess they are there. They're in episode 2, even, aren't they?
They're in the Clone Wars as well, and there's the whole thing of like, oh, you can't say this is the Trade Federation, even though they're like clearly funding everything. I think it was the Trade Federation where it was like the arc about the fact that like, no, they're in the Senate, but they're allegedly loyal, but they're still funding everything the Separatists are doing. And these new senators, I think, were like new installations. I don't think they were from the Clone Wars, because it was the Commerce Guild senator as well as the banking clan.
Right. So was that Commerce Guild? That's I'm looking Shumai, right?
No, is that Shumai's head gets?
She's
cut
the
off
one
by
killed,
Anakin.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, I was gonna say they were all on Mustafar. I thought.
Yeah.
Just she was cloned.
There's the Senate representatives, but there's also the leaders of the actual organization, like planetary governors versus senators. So like Newt Gunray was leading the Trade Federation, but he wasn't the senator in the Senate at that point.
Right.
Senate representation in Star Wars is a fucking mess. So you can only get so deep into it, but
yeah. I really enjoy scenes like that because it connects it to the Clone Wars, obviously, and the Senate just looks so good. I'm just rewatching some of the scenes now, like the lighting, the little scrolling details on their data pads and stuff.
Yeah.
I do find it funny how like very clearly they've got some alien models that are like super high quality, like Pantorans everywhere in the show.
Yeah,
Ishitib everywhere.
The Ishitib banking clan senator rather than one.
Yeah, exactly. I will say the Cami Noan, she was in the Clone Wars as well. I forget her name. She's so creepy. Like I wish we had gotten
Halle Bertoni. Sorry, not Halle.
I wish we had gotten, and I hope we do someday, get a look at the Cami Noans with better like effects, because they're such a creepy species. And she gave off really creepy vibes in the scenes that she was in, I thought. But yeah, and obviously we got the what's the name of the Terra senator from Rogue One again?
Fuck, I did a video on her. Can't remember. Something.
Tinra Pomlo?
Yeah.
Tinra Pamlo? Yeah. Yeah, I like her. Has she popped up anywhere else yet? I think
she's just been Rogue One.
Just a couple of Bad Batch episodes, I guess. Truth and Consequences and
she's just in the she's in the background, and then she says one thing here, but
yeah. So it was that was probably my favorite episode of the season so far, I would say.
I love Halle Bertoni showing up as well, because it's the funniest Star Wars name. Just objective.
Yeah, it is.
George clearly did not give a fuck about like barely hiding it with Newt Gunray anymore. He just fucking went for it. It's like if you just named Palpatine Dick Cheney.
I would have respected it.
Dickie Cheney.
Yeah, like Dick. It'd be Dixtus. It'd be like Dixtus Chen or something. That's a good Star Wars name.
Then when Mace Windu walks into the office to arrest him, he just shoots him in the face with a shotgun.
Hunting rifle, yeah. It was an accident. I still remember hearing that. I remember for some reason hearing that on the news when that happened. I was at my grandmother's house. I don't know why. I think it was because they.
Where were you when Dick Cheney shot his friend in the face?
Yes. Where were you when Dick Cheney shot a guy? Yeah, I don't know why I remember it, but I do. Yeah. Okay. So the next episode was pretty much a continuation. I mean, the Palpatine stuff I was talking about happened in episode 8, not episode 7. I really enjoyed them going into the Venator. I thought that was a cool scene. Nice to see kind of more of Coruscant. I liked Rampart's office as well. He was kind of in that area they go to, and it looked like that area in episode 3 when they're launching the Venator. When Anakin and Obi-Wan say goodbye to each other, it kind of reminded me of that area.
Yeah, they reused a lot of locations for this because it was like they went to there was a lot of like the hallways from the Clone Wars, but there's also the
bar.
Yeah, the bar and what are their names? The Martez sisters' workshop where they're all gathering.
I forgot about that. Yeah, just a little wink and a nod there.
They're out of town, so we can use it.
Yeah.
You want to just move on to the IXIUM jobs? What are you thinking the fallout from this will be with Sid? Now that they've got their ship back, Gonky is going to rule the galaxy. We'll get to that in a minute, but...
Well, I assume that Sid's going to see the error of her ways and start a workers' co-op, right?
If she gets live footage of what's going on where Mako gets thrown off the bridge.
The only thing I could think about was how kind of funny this was for a Disney episode, like for a Disney product to be like this like cooperatively owned industry thing.
Well,
like,
so I got a bit of flack at... So I did a video when the season started about how some of the political themes are similar to Andor, where I don't think it goes as far as Andor, obviously, and like it's a kid's show as well. But if you look at how like Star Wars has done political themes over the last 40 years, it's kind of changed more recently into kind of focusing on individual actions rather than being like, oh, Luke Skywalker is going to come in and save us all. So especially in Andor and here, you have like, sure, the Bad Batch is kind of able to be the catalyst for it, but it's ultimately all the workers coming together that causes the actual change. And you see a bit of that even with the sequel trilogy, where the fleet that comes in Rise of Skywalker is just a bunch of individuals. Like, it didn't get too deep into that, but like you can kind of see a transition in how they how political culture at the time was looking at things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's also there's the obvious connection too between this episode specifically with the the workers and the working situation in Andor, where like I got a video coming out on that tonight, where it's like, why not use droids instead of people? It's like, well, there's both practical and philosophical reasons for both. Where when you kind of like enslave someone like this, you're taking away an enemy, you're taking away competition, and I mean, there's a lot to say about like the labor exploitation that I definitely agree when I saw a lot of connections between this and Andor, and I don't think you have to look too closely either.
Yeah. But so you think that Sid is going to take this as an opportunity to turn her smuggling operation or whatever the hell she does into do a nice worker co-op, and she's going to give each of the Bad Batch a profit share?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Sid. Like, I feel like this might be the obvious answer. I do think she is going to end up making the right decision, like a good decision, against her, like against what's going to seem as against her nature. Like, she's going to end up doing the right thing, even though it's not purely profit, or she'll help the Bad Batch get away or something. But I don't really know. Sid's a weird cookie.
So my thoughts coming out of the episode were that this was going to be like Sid had just completely fucked up by not sending help. It was like she hangs up on them, and then they get off the planet without her help. Like, they get the ship back. They haven't. Well, we saw them take off, but so they basically get off the planet without her help. So I was thinking that would be kind of it for her.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't understand why they need Sid anymore. Like, for a while, she was holding the whole, like, I'll tell the Empire about you over their heads, but, like, the Empire's had multiple run-ins with them now. So, just go to your own thing. You can find money in other ways, you know. So, yeah, I don't think they need Sid anymore, personally. Yeah.
What else to talk about from the episode? I was kind of wondering the whole time if Mako was named after Mako from Legend of Korra, just because of Dave Filoni's involvement, and I think he was involved in Korra, and obviously here as well. But
yeah, I never watched. I still haven't watched Korra. I really enjoyed Avatar, but I haven't watched Korra yet.
Season 3 of Legend of Korra is my favorite Avatar season or book, whatever you want to call them.
You know what I've been watching? The Cyberpunk show on Netflix. It's called Edge Runners.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
It's okay.
I'm never into Cyberpunk the game. Like, I know you were excited when it was coming out, and then felt how a lot of people did. But
yeah, which I really enjoy the Cyberpunk genre. I know we're getting off topic, but we don't got that much more to talk about. I really enjoyed the Cyberpunk genre. I reread Neuromancer by William Gibson before the game came out, and rewatched Ghost in the Shell and all those things, and then the game came out and was just kind of garbage. But the show's all right. It's not as high. It's not as good as like a Ghost in the Shell or anything like that, but it's pretty good. It's by Trigger, which I like. I think that was the studio people were kind of most excited for Vision Season 1.
Which one did they do?
I think they did the twins.
Double Star Destroyer? Okay, yeah.
I think, which I didn't like, but this show is like, it's very stylistic in like a similar way. Is it Studio Trigger or just Trigger? But yeah, it's very like very graphic, lots of like boobs and they did the twins and the Elder. Okay, the Elder was really good.
Yeah. There's been a lot of like video game adaptations coming out. Like Last of Us, I haven't watched yet, but I'm definitely watching that with Dana once we're done watching One of Us is Lying.
Then
there's the Dragon Age show as well, which I've only finished 1.5 Dragon Age games, but I've always wanted to go back and finish those. But
I feel like maybe it was The Witcher that kind of woke people up. I know some people have had issues with The Witcher. I've never played through The Witcher 3, but like I feel like Witcher Season 1 was pretty well liked, and I feel like that was a kind of a wake up call that there's a reason these video games are popular.
Yeah,
like it's not just gameplay. Like that's the one thing that the Halo show should have learned. There's a reason Halo is really popular, and yeah, gameplay is a big part of it, but there's a reason why so many people are into the story as well. Like
it was because you could have sex with prisoners of war in the game, right?
Well, that's what I did when I teabagged my buddy.
Maybe it was more accurate to the lore than we thought.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. There have been a lot of good video games. It's kind of a golden age there have been so many bad video game adaptations. Obviously, the League of Legends one is like
so fucking good. Did you end up watching it?
I watched like 3 episodes and I was kind of buzzed, so I'm gonna go back and watch it again after I do Edge Runners, because I always need a show to be watching while I'm on the bike. Yeah. So I think once Edge Runners is done, I'll go back and that'll be next.
I've been thinking I need to go and try to rewatch as much of The Mandalorian as I can before next week. I keep getting thrown off by the fact that it's February. So I see like, oh, it's only the 23rd. I have so much time left, but then it's
literally a week.
Yeah. But
speaking of, did you get your hard copy of Battle Scars?
I did.
It's kind of a small book, eh?
Yeah, it's only like 250 pages, 270 something. Pretty short.
Yeah, and so the what's it called? This review embargo dropped, and I saw almost no discussion of the book, which
I've seen a lot.
Really, the only thing I've talked about is like I've seen being talked about is how Marin is bi, which like who cares? I haven't seen much. Like I've seen a few people who are kind of iffy on it, a few people who loved it. What have you seen?
I haven't seen like any in-depth reviews or any like any spoilery stuff because I am trying to avoid it. But I've read the first 2 chapters so far, and I've been enjoying that. So
Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
something we should cover like as soon as we reasonably can.
When does it release?
I think March 7th.
Oh, well, we could do it.
Because
Not next week, but the week after.
yeah, that'd be if it comes out on March 7th. That's a Tuesday. I think talking about it on the 9th isn't.
Yep.
Is that your? No. When's your birthday?
6th.
The 6th. Okay, upside down 9.
Yeah. Is yours the
Mine's the 17th.
Yeah, 17th. Yeah, we gotta do some joint event.
Yeah, if we do some battle scars on the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll probably be talking about Mando next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a safe bet.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that works. But
they sent me an audiobook for it as well.
I think I got the audiobook. What I don't get, so for the review copies, I don't want to sound entitled, but for a lot of the books, they end up sending an ebook first, and then a few weeks before release, you'll get the hardcover or like whatever physical copies coming out. Not for all of them, but for most of them. Like most of the High Republic stuff, we'd get that way. Battle Scars, we got that way. Shadow of the Sith, that's how we got them. But so the physical copies, they stay around. Like no one comes back from Del Rey to take the book back from you at some point. But with the ebooks, it's a copy that expires, and I don't understand why it's not just a permanent copy of them, because I'd love to have both. That is my entitled thing that I want. That's my rant for the day.
I'm guessing it's because they're not fully edited versions. I've noticed one or two mistakes. Yeah. Have you ever gotten the? You might not have gotten them at this point. They used to send out early physical copies too.
No, I never got one of those.
Hold on, I'll see if I can go find one. I'll be right back. But yeah, they're kind of interesting.
Right, yeah. So, well, I mean, I don't need the extra ebook for that, and I mean, I'm saving money anyways by getting the physical copy. But still, it's my one complaint with the review process. Oh, is that the Shadow of the Sith one you have?
I got Alphabet Squadron.
Alphabet Squadron. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it looks like a normal book. It's not hardcover. The back is on all, and then inside there's like no graphics or anything. What's this? There's a movie ticket in here. Oh, I got my Star Wars Episode 3 movie ticket in there.
Oh, nice.
As a bookmark.
Those came out around the same time, right?
Yeah, May 5th or May 19th, 2005. Wow, $7 for a ticket. Huh.
Like the nice thing about having ebooks is we can search them for lore videos. Basically.
Yes. Exactly.
That's so much easier to find information when you can search them.
Oh yeah, there have been so many times where I've bought an ebook just because, for that one reason. Like even if I have a physical copy.
Yeah. It helps that they're much cheaper too. But anyways, I have a theory about the Bad Batch that I want to run by you.
Okay.
You might have heard this already, but
sure.
So they got Gonky back with the ship. There was the line where Hunter was saying like, "Oh, he's not just a power droid, a shitty power droid to us." And then Wrecker at the end is like hugging him and saying, "Glad to have you back." But these are clearly just fucking lies, right? Like they don't care. They didn't even remember he was there until Omega thought of him as a way to track down the Havoc Marauder. If Gonky was not on that ship, if he was on one end of the planet, Havoc Marauder was on the other, they're going for the ship and then they're leaving, right? They're not going to find Gonky.
Yeah, that's the truth. I also found that there was a bit of a juxtaposition there where like they're talking about wanting to save Gonky and well, no, because they did have the opportunity to leave and Hunter did say we're not leaving without him, but I mean maybe he would have.
But he was close by at that point. I mean, if it was like two distinct missions they had to go on to get Gonky on one, Havoc Marauder on the other, they're not using Havoc Marauder to go find Gonky. They're just leaving. Maybe Omega says like, "Oh, we need to get Gonky."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that was, but
this is not bad. But But yeah, I just found it funny how they were worried about Gonky, and they talked about how Gonky was one of the crew, and then Hunter just brutally fucking murders another droid.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck. These guys have no reason to like droids. Like it's a prejudice. It's not a good prejudice, but I can understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with them. It's a vile thing for them to do, but they hate Gonky, and this is why Gonky is going to realize that they hate them, that he wouldn't have been rescued if it was entirely up to, like, if it was a different circumstance. He is going to turn them into the Empire, and he is going to lead the clone replacement program in Rampart's place.
I want to disagree, but I can't. Like, I don't see how I could pick holes in your logic there.
Yeah.
So
season 3 of the Bad Batch, which I assume we both agree is coming, is about Bad Batch versus Gonky.
For real though, I do think we are going to get season 3 of the Bad Batch.
No, there's no way we don't.
I think we might get up to like season 5 or at least season 4, because it's something like it's covering Disney's ass right now in the off season. I think it seems to me the show's getting decent attention as well. Yeah, especially I'm really curious to see how much interest the show gets in the last 2 episodes, where presumably something big is going to happen.
I'm curious to see what it'll be like with the episode 12 being, I do think, probably the best episode of the season.
Unfortunately, it's going to be dealing with Mando episode 2.
Yeah, like that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. It's like, what does it hold up when people have like the new shiny Mandalorian stuff? Like, but
it's also a bit of an opportunity, I think, because they're going to be getting more eyes than ever on the platform. Yeah. So, have next up be the Bad Batch.
Yeah. So I guess it's not too spoilery for me to just say, like, my feeling watching the rest of the episodes was that we're definitely getting a season 3.
Well, that's good. Okay.
Like, it doesn't seem like, obviously I don't know how everything wraps up with the final 2 episodes, but I feel like there's enough that they're setting up that I don't think is going to be paid off in 2 episodes, that I think the intention at the very least is strongly pointing towards season 3. But that being said, we do have confirmation that Jon Favreau has already written Mando season 4, and there's also the potential indications that Ahsoka is going to be more than just 1 season now, after originally being a limited series.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't see how they make Ahsoka. I mean, I'm saying this having not knowing anything about what Ahsoka will be like, but yeah, I don't see how they keep that to 1 season unless it all plays into another big show or another big limited event. But yeah, it doesn't make sense, I think, for this build up to only be towards 1 season. And
I wonder if any of that changed with like Rangers and the New Republic not being a thing. Whether there was some like earlier stuff that was going to be Rangers of the New Republic, with Ahsoka being like the accumulation or a culmination of Mando and Rangers, and now like it's just Mando and Book of Boba Fett. So yeah,
or even vice versa. Like it could have been that maybe Ahsoka was to lead into Rangers. Like who knows? But yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of weird how we know nothing really about what Ahsoka is going to be like. We do know now it's probably coming out in around this fall, which makes sense. That's kind of like prime time for TV and streaming. So that's very exciting. Probably it'll be Mando. We have Visions, and then that, I guess. And
Visions on May 4th, and it's going to be the whole thing. And it's probably going to be some downtime before getting Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka. What's your thoughts on the order of those 2, though?
Well, yeah, I don't know, because Skeleton Crew is supposed to come out this year. I don't know, actually. I guess one could be a December thing. Like Skeleton Crew could be like a December release, and then it's still technically this year, but it's kind of running into next year. There's also one thing that's kind of interesting and a little scary is there's the potential for a writer's strike coming up. which could really affect everything. I don't know how many of you were around watching. I assume a lot of you during the 06-07 writer's strike, but shows either did one of two things. They stopped, or they fucked up their trajectory because they had really awful seasons. So that's definitely something that they're considering. I know we're like, I've heard Jon Favreau's like a big, I think he's the president of one of the guilds. So I imagine like he'll want to have solidarity with the writer's strike. So I don't know if that means that he would stop production on already written things. I assume so, because there's always like rewrites and stuff that happen. So kind of a bit of a scary situation. So
the other thing that happened with the writer's strikes back then was that was a big cause for the rise of a lot of reality TV. So that's when we're going to get the return of Ahmed Best's, like, whatever that show was where you'd like
Jedi Trials or Jedi Temple Challenge or
whatever the Jungle Run follow-up was in the Star Wars version. It's going to be a lot of Star Wars reality shows that we're getting. Unscripted, just following Jedi in their daily lives.
I honestly think Disney should do some, like, the Star Wars fandom is so big, like, you could do a pretty cool show about, visiting the houses of the craziest Star Wars fans. Like, oh, this is the guy's, this is the pit where he burns all the Ahsoka and Rey toys, and this is the one where he cuts the eyes out of Brie Larson dolls, and yeah, pretty fun.
Well, you were saying that, I got an email about a screener. I was like, oh, is it? It's not.
No, it's not.
I don't think we can legally say what that is, but it's not anything Star Wars. But
no, it's definitely not. I've never even heard of this thing.
Neither have I. So just a show where they're tracking Super Shadow going grocery shopping or something?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think you could do... Star Wars should do... Like, Star Wars is probably one of the most interesting fan bases around. Even if you exclude all the negative stuff. I think I don't know. They should do some stuff celebrating that, even if it's just on YouTube, which they have before with usually just as like segments on the Star Wars show, which I don't know if they've still been running, but like the Star Wars show used to be really good. But like during Rebels especially, they used to always have every Rebels week they'd have an interview usually with Pablo or somebody, and that was always a lot of good content.
I feel like they're still doing it.
Maybe.
At least they were a few months ago. I don't know if it's been like a few months on hiatus or something. But speaking of celebration, we did also get the news that the next celebration is not going to be until 2025, which I'm a little disappointed by, because I was definitely not going to make it for this year's, and I was kind of thinking maybe I'd try for next year's. But there is no next year's, so maybe in 2025 I'll go to... Because I've never done a convention before. I've never done an in-person event for anything other than, I guess, like meeting you and Charlie. So that...
Yeah, me neither, actually. I tried to do HalCon, but I told that story before. The one thing I did is during when was it? It was for an EA event. Or no, it was for, EA Play a few years ago. We went, Alex, Star Wars Explained, and everyone who was there, really, we had a fan meetup at a bar called Scum and Villainy in Hollywood, which is like, it's a Star Wars themed bar. So if I ever get out to Hollywood again, I'd like to do that. Cause it was cool to meet people who know you. And I imagine maybe there'd be haters now, because I was a lot more popular back then, or like not more popular, but I feel like I had less people who felt negatively about me. So
yeah, it's the shine is kind of worn off the more I've gotten to know you.
Yeah.
We do have a couple emails, unless there's something else you want to talk about with the Bad Batch before we head into email land. We got a ton of spam emails between this and the last episode, so I'd like to
and I figured out why. I don't think it's because at first I thought we had like a dedicated hater. I'm pretty sure it's because we have our email unprotected on the podcast player.
Yeah, and it's also just in the description.
Yeah.
But it's easy enough to delete. I don't care, to be honest.
Yeah, I had to remove I removed it from my phone, so I can't see the emails.
Yeah, I never get them directly to my phone. I only get it in the because I never had it on my phone because I think it's directly connected to your stuff, so I never bothered with it.
Oh, okay.
Anywho, our first email comes from Jaden, who says, "Longtime listener, really loved the show. I was wondering if either of you have ever heard of NK Necrosis, a somewhat reincarnated form of Grievous from Star Wars. Do either of you recommend any ways to read up on some interesting stuff from Galaxies?"
I was gonna say, isn't he the one from Galaxies?
Yeah.
Didn't Galaxies also resurrect HK-47?
Yeah, there was like the HK stuff. Jaden also brought up Nihilus's mask showing up. Which was that in Galaxies or was that just in the
I think that was in
role-playing stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't personally read too much into that stuff. Like ultimately there's usually not a lot there because it's something done for, the fun of people on the Galaxies game. Like Galaxies did have a set of tie-in novels. I've never read them, but I've heard they're very bad.
Yeah,
and very short.
There's definitely a lot of like interesting little things they did, but as far as like places to read about it, there's not too much that's built up around it. So unfortunately, you kind of just got to look at either Wikipedia articles. I think the game is actually still playable, but you have to go through some like fan made server stuff to do it. So it's,
if you ever want to we don't just have a lot of the times, sometimes we just kind of naturally know where things are from, but if you ever want to read more about something, go to Wikipedia and look at the appearances section for a thing. And usually you can tell, okay, so if I want to read about this, it appeared in these books. And sometimes Wikipedia is not as good as like the actual Wikipedia, but like directly linking sources to, or information to sources, like with footnotes and stuff. But usually the actual sources at the bottom are pretty comprehensive. So if you ever want to read more about something, Wikipedia is pretty good.
Yep. Just remember to
turn ad block on.
Off ad block or turn on ad block.
Turn on ad block.
All right. Well, thank you, Jaden. Good luck finding whatever interesting things you can from it. It is mostly just like trying to look through as many Wikipedia articles or playing the game. Honestly, there's not a lot of other like if you're thinking of the canon as like the old hierarchy, imagine Galaxies is like some dude hanging off the bottom level. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Which is probably how it should be, or else, Yeah. I think Galaxies has lots of Legends characters in it. Like, I think Corran Horn was in it, and like Mara Jade, so yeah.
Our next email for the day is from Joel, who says, considering that the Empire is in a state similar to the Rebellion during the time of the Mandalorian, being scattered cells operating in secret, do you think they could parallel the early Rebellion and even Andor by having Thrawn be the Luthen of the Imperial Remnant? Someone who's linking all the various cells together while perhaps commanding his own personal cell in the unknown regions. It seems that the Imperials will become the First Order are doing their own separate things outside of these various cells, and Thrawn. Curious to hear your thoughts.
I don't think so. I think Thrawn's going to be more of like the divine authority thing, where he comes in and people naturally fall behind him, where Luthen is like holding everything together with sheer will. And even then, he's only, a small part of the rebellion.
Yeah, like surface level of like guy who connects the cells, I could definitely see being a parallel there. But as far as like having to do what Luthen's doing, where you're kind of going from the bottom up, I do think X right about it just being a thing where people will follow Thrawn because he is the biggest remaining authority figure around wherever he needs to be.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was in Legends too.
Yeah.
Although most of that was source book stuff, but
like most of the Star Wars books at the time were just like, this is the Empire, and then it was source books that were like, this is this part of the Empire, and other parts of the Empire worked with them or not.
Yeah, Kane was around. He gave Thrawn his ships.
Where are all the books about Kane? They don't exist. There's not one. But I think that is going to do it for our questions for the day. Any final thoughts today, Justin?
No, that'll be it. Next week we'll have. I'm sure we'll talk mostly Mando. I probably give her some Bad Batch thoughts as well. I don't want the show discussion to go away. But yeah, and then after that, probably the subsequent week, we'll do battle scars. Unless it's like a crazy Mando episode where Luke Skywalker comes and jerks off the Mandalorian or something like that'd be pretty cool. I'd talk about that instead. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. We will be doing some gaming tonight over on youtube.com/ECKSTOO, as well as twitch.tv/Corey Loses. So check that out if you want. I think we've got some more highlights to look at potentially. I don't know.
Are you still feeling the way you were the other day when you texted me about tonight?
Yes.
Nice. Let's go.
That was yesterday, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. But
I thought it was 2 days ago. Okay. My bad.
All right. Well, hope to see you all in 15 minutes. Other than that, hopefully we'll see you next week. If not that, hopefully the week after that. And that's